Who wrote the book of Revelation? What the early church, AD 95 to 350, actually said. I. Internal testimony, 1st century. The author identifies himself. Open quote, I, John, your brother and companion in the tribulation and kingdom and patient endurance that are in Jesus. Revelation 1:9, close quote. Open quote, I, John, am the one who heard and saw these things. Revelation 22:8, quote. The book claims John wrote it. The question is, which John? The question century witnesses, closest to the apostles. Papias of Hierapolis, CAD 110 to 1130. Hearer of John, companion of Polycarp. Works survive in fragments quoted by later writers. While his surviving fragments focus more on gospel origins, Irenaeus testifies that Papias personally knew John, which places Papias in the Johannine circle that accepted revelation. Open quote, Papias, who was a hearer of John and a companion of Polycarp. Irenaeus, Against Heresies 5.33.4, close quote. This matters because Papias' community received revelation as Johannine without controversy. Justin Martyr, c. AD 135 to 165, lived in Ephesus, where John ministered. Open quote, a man among us named John, one of the apostles of Christ, prophesied by a revelation that was made to him. Dialogue with Trypho 81, close quote. This is the earliest explicit attribution of revelation to John the Apostle. Melito of Sardis, c. AD 170, bishop in Asia Minor. Eusebius records that Melito wrote a commentary on Revelation. Open quote, Melito wrote a treatise on the Apocalypse of John. Eusebius, Ecclesiastical History 4.26.2, close quote. Melito lived in one of the 7 churches addressed by Revelation. The Muratorian fragment, c. AD 17 to 200, earliest NT canon list. Open quote, the Apocalypse of John is received. Close quote. The fragment includes revelation without qualification and attributes it to John. Irenaeus of Lyons, c. AD 180, disciple of Polycarp, disciple of John. Open quote. John, the disciple of the Lord who leaned upon his breast, himself published the Apocalypse while living at Ephesus. Against Heresies 5.30.3, close quote. Irenaeus also dates Revelation. Open quote. The Apocalypse was seen no very long time ago, but almost in our own generation, toward the end of the reign of Domitian. Against Heresies 530.3, close quote. This is direct apostolic chain testimony. Third, early 3rd century witnesses. Clement of Alexandria, c. AD 200. Open quote. John, after the tyrant's death, returned from the island of Patmos to Ephesus. Who is the rich man that shall be saved? 42. Close quote. Patmos is mentioned only in Revelation. Tertullian, c. AD 200, open quote, the Apostle John was first plunged unhurt into boiling oil and then banished to an island. Prescription against heretics 36, close quote. The exile refers directly to Revelation 1:9. Hippolytus of Rome, c. AD 200 to 235, open quote, John, the disciple of the Lord, saw the apocalypse in the island of Patmos. On Christ and Antichrist 36, close quote. Origen, c. AD 230 to 250, open quote. John, who leaned on Jesus' breast, left behind one gospel, and he also wrote the Apocalypse. Commentary on Matthew 16:6, close quote. Origen acknowledges stylistic differences, but never denies authorship. 4. Minority objection, mid-3rd century. Dionysius of Alexandria, ca. 250, open quote. Some before us have utterly repudiated and refuted the Apocalypse, but I would not venture to reject it. Eusebius, Ecclesiastical History 7.25, close quote. He argues stylistic differences, but admits, open quote, the author was named John, close quote. He suggests another John, but names no evidence. V. 4th century witnesses, up to AD 350. Victorinus of Petau, DC AD 303, earliest surviving commentary on Revelation. Open quote, when John said these things, he was on the island of Patmos, condemned to the mines by Caesar Domitian. Commentary on the Apocalypse 10.11, close quote. Eusebius of Caesarea, c. AD 3 and 25, church historian. Open quote, John the Apostle and Evangelist is said to have seen the revelation. Ecclesiastical History 3.24, close quote. Eusebius records dissent but preserves the dominant tradition. Athanasius, AD 367, end of our time frame. Open quote, again, the revelation of John, Festal Letter 39, close quote, no caveats, no hesitation. What the evidence shows. Direct attributions to John the Apostle, Justin Martyr, Melito of Sardis, Irenaeus, Clement of Alexandria, Tertullian, Hippolytus, Origen, Victorinus, Athanasius. Only objection, Dionysius of Alexandria, stylistic minority late. Final historical conclusion, open quote, the earliest, closest, and most numerous witnesses, many within one or two living links of the Apostle John, explicitly state that John the Apostle wrote the book of Revelation, close quote. No competing author is ever historically identified.